Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, I hope you have a lovely day. I hope that everything you try to do, it all just goes your way. And this is just a video, this is what it is. It's how to restring a guitar in a few relatively simple steps. Okay, that last line didn't necessarily flow off the tongue, but nevertheless, this is a guitar. I need to restring it, and I figured why not just record the process. I know that a lot of people might be a little frightened at the idea of restringing a guitar for the first time, and I'm just simply going to record the process and show you how I do it. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to talk while we're doing it. So the strings that I'm going to be using for this are D'Addario, phosphor bronze, and they are 11 custom light gauge. So the reason that I use these strings in particular, so phosphor bronze, generally they tend to stay a bit brighter for a little bit longer, and they're a little bit more durable. If you can afford the extra couple of pounds or euros or dollars, they're definitely a good shout. And then 11 gauge, this is on the lighter side. I tend to do a lot of finger picking, so the 11 gauge, they're a little bit easier on my fingers. They're a little bit brighter. You can go heavier if you don't do as much finger picking, if you tend to be more of a strummer. You can go heavier. You can go to 12s, 13s, even 14s. 14s, it's pretty heavy. I mean, I would generally say 11, 12, 13 for most people will be great. So to restring a guitar, you really don't need anything other than a new set of strings. Like, that's the only thing that you really need. There's a couple of things that I like to do when I restring my guitar. One is that I will always apply a little bit of lemon oil to the fretboard. The reason I do this is because it helps to condition the wood a little bit. It adds a little bit of moisture. It smells really nice, and it just helps to keep the guitar in good shape. It stops the wood from getting dry and cracking and all of that stuff. And in terms of stuff that you might need, one of these, I like to spin it. This will just help you to restring the guitar a little bit quicker. It's not absolutely essential, but if you restring guitars often, this will save many minutes of your life that you won't get back. So anyway, this is my guitar. I've been playing it since I was 16 years old. I'm now 34, so I've had this guitar for quite a while. But the first thing that we do when we are restringing a guitar, I'm going to use this. All we're going to do is take the strings off. We're going to do it one by one. So what I would recommend doing is do it one by one. Doesn't matter what order you do it in. Personally, people might disagree. Just take the strings off one by one. Don't cut the strings and reduce that tension immediately. Like if you were to just get a pair of pliers and just cut the strings here, yes, it might be quicker, but it might damage the guitar in the long run with that rapid amount of sort of depressurizing. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, what we're going to do, I'm just going to start unwinding this. Don't have to do it too much. You'll notice that the string will go kind of slack. I'm just going to take that string off. So this process is really quite simple. We're just going to take strings off one by one. Not overly complicated. This is sort of the time-consuming part of taking strings off. We'll get to those afterwards. But yeah, I mean, in terms of restringing a guitar, I used to busk pretty much 5 or 6 days a week. And I found myself restringing guitars. Honestly, like I'd restring my guitar like at least every month, but I'd be breaking strings all the time. You might find if you play outdoors quite a lot and then indoors as well, that change of heat can sometimes reduce the longevity of the strings. So this is the easy part. It has taken me like what, a matter of like a minute and a half to take the strings off. So I tend to unwind them all. You'll see that they're all just kind of slack. They're all just there. I'm just going to take them off one by one. So this is the easy part. So step one of changing guitar strings is taking the existing strings off. Okay, so the strings are already off. What we have here is a nice fresh guitar with absolutely no strings on there. Now, usually I would clean the fretboard and the body. You will generally tend to find that this space here, underneath where the strings are, this gets quite dusty. So I'm gonna just take a microfiber cloth. On this occasion, I'm not gonna clean the body properly. I would usually do that, but I'm actually out. One thing to mention is when you are cleaning the body of your guitar, especially an acoustic guitar, you don't want to use like a household like polish on there. It's a little bit too harsh for the wood on a guitar. What I'm going to do now is I am going to use some of this lemon oil. So the one that I've got, I don't know if you can see that, it's completely blurry. Oh well, it's basically Dunlop fretboard 65 ultimate lemon oil. So I won't put it straight onto the fretboard, but what I'll do is I'll just take this microfiber cloth, a couple of sprays onto there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it to my fretboard. I generally don't go too crazy with this stuff, to be honest with you. I'll just do a little bit on these frets up here. You'll often find as a guitarist, you probably don't spend, if you're an acoustic guitarist anyway, you don't spend too much time up and around the 12th fret and beyond. I'm going to give it another spray because this microfiber cloth seems to just be absorbing all the lemon oil. But yeah, what we want to do is just make sure that there's a nice even spread across the fretboard. If there's any gunk and any dirt, especially in those nooks and crannies of the fretboard, this is your opportunity to give it a clean. But this is all I do, honestly. Like, this is a guitar that I've had for, honestly, like almost 20 years now, which is quite wild. So now the fretboard is lemon oiled up. It's looking beautiful. It actually smells amazing as well. That's a weird thing to do, but yeah, it smells great. And now we will, I'll also give a little bit of a dusting to the head of the guitar, because again, with those tuning pegs and where you string the guitar, these can get quite dusty. There we go. Now we have a nice empty guitar. I have my strings. So when you're stringing a guitar, you'll often find that the stringing companies will color grade the strings. I don't know whether, there we go. It will color grade the strings for you. So this does make it infinitely easier to do. Let me just pull these strings out. They'll tend to pair them into twos. So you'll have 3 lots of strings. So you'll have the thicker strings together, the middle 2, and then the 2 sort of steel. Are they steel? Steel strings, I guess. The silver ones, the thinner ones. I tend to string the thicker strings first, and I'll tend to just go from top to bottom. So for me, I've got a quite simple setup here. I just insert the string into the bottom of here and feed it up. Your guitar may be a little bit different. However, it's usually pretty self-explanatory. So I want you to pull it all the way up until it's got no slack at the bottom. And now here's a little trick for you. So I want you to hold it up, your guitar, like this. And then where we're going to be putting it into its individual peg, what I will generally tend to do is I'll create a bend in the string and I'll use 2 or 3 fingers. The thicker strings I might use 2 fingers because the strings are a bit thicker. The thinner strings I might use 3 fingers. So what I'll do is I'll have 2 fingers here. Where that top finger ends, I'm going to grab that string and I'm going to create a little bit of a bend in that string. So you see how I now have a string that's basically bent at the top. This seems kind of strange. I will feed that through. There we go. And then you won't be able to pull it through anymore because you've got that curve in the string. And now this is where it becomes quite simple. So what I'll tend to do is just make sure that it's nice and set. This is where I'll just use my forefinger here to keep the string in place, and then I'll simply tighten that string. Here we go. So making sure, by the way, that where you've put the string in, when you have it on, you want that string that's loose and coming out to be on top of the string that's going in. We will continue to just tighten, tighten, tighten. Here we go. Super, super simple. You'll feel it getting tighter. Boom. That is the string that is on. So that string is on now. I'll wait to tune it until I've got all of the strings on. So I want to make sure that it's not super tight, not super loose, somewhere within like 5 or 6 tones of where I need to be. I'm not going to cut this off just yet. We'll keep it on just for the time being. Moving on to the second string. It's exactly the same process every single time. So insert the string into the bottom of the guitar. Make sure it's got no slack at the bottom. And then again. So let me see if I can get a little bit closer for you guys here. So where that peg is, here we go. Where that peg is here, hold the string up to it. And then I want you to take 2 fingers just at the top of it. Grab where the top of your forefinger was. And then just create a bend in the string. Super simple. I don't know whether this is the official way to do it, but I've been doing this for pretty much 20 years now, and this guitar sounds just as beautiful as it did when I first had it. So we're going to insert that into there. So I'm inserting it into here. You'll notice that there's a bend, so it won't pull any further. I'm going to take my forefinger and just hold it here. I'm going to take this and I will simply start winding it. So when you're doing, if you've got these 3 on the left and 3 on the right, when you're stringing it, insert the string to the left, so from the right to the left of the hole, and then what you want to do is turn it anti-clockwise. So you'll see that peg at the top is turning anti-clockwise. Make sure that this loose string that's coming out that you've inserted is above the string that you're trying to hold tight, and then just turn, 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 turn. Okay, so that's pretty simple there. String number 3. But in terms of how often you restring a guitar, it's really quite subjective. It depends on how much you play the guitar. So if you're the sort of person that plays every single day, I would generally recommend changing your strings, I mean, every month or 2. I know that sounds like it's too often, but this will keep those strings fresh. And indeed, when I was busking all the time, I'd be changing them constantly. So here we see, that's where I want to insert the string. 2 fingers here. Grab that and create a little bend in the string. Insert it here, make sure that the holes are sort of horizontal here, and then we'll insert it from right to left, pull it in until it hits that curve and it doesn't go any further. And then what I'm going to do is keep that string tight, and I'm going to tighten that string up. You'll see that peg will be turning anti-clockwise for the 3 thicker strings. Beautiful. So those are the 3 bottom strings done, or top strings, however you want to call them. We move on to string number 4. So I'm hoping that this guys can show you that actually the process is really quite simple. So now we're going to reverse it. So generally for the first 3 strings, I'll use 3 fingers as sort of like 2 fingers as a bit of a measuring post on how much extra string to give before I start winding. With these, now that the strings start to become a little bit thinner, and they don't take as much space on this peg as they wrap around because they're thinner, I'm going to now use 3 fingers as a bit of a measuring. So here we have the string, here we have the peg here. So I'll take 3 fingers and then grab where the top finger was, give it a little bend, and then opposite to this time, we're going to be inserting it going from the left to the right. Use my forefinger just to keep it nice and tight. We're going to be stringing it. So this peg will now be turning clockwise as opposed to the first 3 that were anti-clockwise. Making sure again that where you've put that string in and that string, the additional string, is loose, making sure that's above the string that's wrapping around the peg. I'm going to ignore the fact that I just hit myself in the face with that string. That's nice. Still quite loose, but the goal is for me right now, to be honest with you, is to just get the strings on. What I tend to do is I'll get the strings on, and then honestly, you'll tune them, you'll play for a little while. So 3 fingers again, curve the string. On this one, we insert it from left to right instead of right to left. Feed it through, and then again, I'm going to take my handy little tool and I am going to start twisting. There. It's hard to do this when I'm doing it facing forward. Here we go. I'm hitting myself in the face with this string repeatedly, but that's okay. So you might find that you're actually turning it for a little bit longer. So this is the last string, this is the 6th string. Feed it in, 3 fingers, give it a nice bend, make sure it's a good one. Here we go. Feed the string through, feedy, 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 and then we just keep twisting. Twisty, 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 twisty. Simple enough, not super difficult. It's really not that complicated. It's just, for some people, a little time consuming. So here we go. I've gone from a guitar with an old set of strings on it. I've managed to clean the body, remove all of the dust. We've lemon oiled the fretboard, and we've now got a beautiful new set of strings on there. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll tune the guitar. To be honest with you, I tend to do it by ear. Okay, so that's definitely like detuned quite a bit, but you get the picture. I think if you can invest in one, you can also get a little tuner that you can put on the top of your guitar. It'll tell you the notes. This is the point as well, by the way, guys, where if you want to cut off all of these slack additional string, you are absolutely within your rights to do so. Let's get it nice and string free here. So there we go. That is how you restring a guitar. Here we go. So the guitar is now, well, it's in tune. It's detuned quite a bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get that tuner and I'll tune it to its proper tuning. I really hope that that was useful for you guys. If you've got any questions about restringing a guitar at all, honestly, just drop a comment and I'll do my best to reply as soon as possible. And if you by any chance feel like doing it, press the subscribe button. Peace.